Welcome to Aim the Next Global On Demand. Please enjoy the session at your own pace.
Welcome Sanjeev, Chakri. I'm thrilled to be here today with you in Dallas, where we will be discussing the significance of data and knowledge when it comes to integrated planning and decision making. The topic of integrated planning and decision making seems to be making its way into the boardroom more and more. And I would love to hear from you today if you can share your thoughts based on your interactions with executives and board members on how you see this progressing.
Okay, let me take that first. I think the big change that I see is, we've been supply chain professionals for 20, 30 years. Demand supply mismatches, balancing demand supply is in our DNA. But what I see as a big change is now that has become conversations. The lexicon has gone standard in boardrooms. And the reason for that is, the obvious, the extreme volatility of demand supply, the imbalances in demand supply, the wild swings that have happened over the last 2 years. Everyone knows of the reasons for those. That has had significant material impact on financial performance, right? I'm talking to CEOs in many industries. The supply shortages have led to backlogs of immense proportions in every one of these companies, which means lost revenues. On the other side, 3 to 4 to 5 to 6% impact on gross margins because they're spending so much more on premium parts, so much more on premium capacity, so much more on expediting. So the reasons as why it's become mainstream at the CXO level is obvious. But what's more heartening is that they have realized how complex the supply chain operation is, what it takes to keep this demand and supply balance in balance, the need for digitization, the need for agility, the need for resilience has become a boardroom topic. And so that's the positive coming out of this, I see. But indeed, yes, it is a boardroom topic.
Totally. Actually, I've never seen a time before where this chief supply chain officer was actually making board presentations, right? Historically, it used to be a VP of manufacturing, some people in finance, all getting together and figuring out how to meet the demand, how much inventory to build, etc. I think the role of the chief supply chain officer shows that the CEO and the board are taking that extremely seriously, as they should. Right, the trend's been moving for a long time. As the rate of change of industry becomes more rapid, the supply chain and how you react both to the demand side and your supply side, and how you react, meaning not your manufacturing, not your distribution, but your entire company, which is your marketing operations, your sales operations, your procurement operations, your manufacturing operations, all need to come together. Thus, the definition of a chief supply chain officer, right? Yeah. And the chief supply chain officer also reporting directly to the CEO. It's becoming more and more important and more common.
Yeah, and if I might add, Sanjeev, I think the frustrations that we are seeing now, increased awareness of the importance of this, the lack of connection, the silos between all these functions have become really apparent, and therefore the need for integrated planning, the integrated business planning, and faster acceleration of breaking down these silos. There's a lot of frustration in terms of the speed with which the digitization is happening. I think that's the opportunity. People are asking the question, why is the digitization taking so long? Why can't the silos be broken down faster?
Right. Another thing to add there, which you're probably noticing in your conversations with executive teams also, is that historically, the S&OP function and what's now being popular, which is the integrated business function, used to operate at a lower level, but now increasingly, the CEO is participating in that process, or the business unit leader, right? In many cases, it's not the CEO, but a business unit itself is $1 billion, $2 billion, $5 billion. The business unit leader is a very important participant and many times the leader of the integrated business planning process. And thus the connection to the board, right? The board also, the terminology, integrated business planning, S&OP, is popping up more and more in board meetings, as it should be.
As it should, exactly.
Perfect. So indeed, we confirm that this is a topic that seems to be coming up a lot more. But we also hear that there's a lot of frustration behind this. And I think one of the topics where we see this frustration coming up is actually the abundance of data that companies can work with, but they struggle still to use that data in an effective way in their integrated planning processes. Can you shed more light on what the impact of this could be on the speed and quality of their decision-making processes?
Indeed, that's a great point, Mitch. Companies are complaining that, on one side there's a lot of data, on the other side not enough insight, not enough speed in decision making. I think there's a big difference between data and knowledge. What companies have is a lot of data, but what they lack is the systematic knowledge to make better decisions. A lot of the knowledge is still trapped in the human mind. We call it tribal knowledge. For example, if you take the forecast or the demand forecast, right? Yes, there's a lot of data being collected from all kinds of sources on pricing, promotions, competitor actions, consumer actions, in multiple databases, external data, internal data. But if you ask the simple question, why did the actuals turn out to be 80 versus the forecast being 100? It's still very difficult to put that answer together. And the answer is actually in someone's mind, it's tribal knowledge. Well, the weather in Texas, the winter storm in Texas caused this. Well, how do you institutionalize that knowledge next time so that you're learning about the impacts of weather on these things, the impact of competitor actions, impact of changing consumer sentiment on demand. So that's the frustration. There is a lot of data, but the systematic knowledge is actually in people, and then people move on. People have biases, a lot of those things. Therefore, the simple answer to, hey, why did we miss the forecast? Why did we miss the plan on production? Why did the procurement get delayed? Is very, very difficult to put in the context of an enterprise. So there's data, but not knowledge. And the big unlock with all the digitization technologies is to figure out a way to systematically connect data and convert it into knowledge, so that when the question comes next time, hey, what is the forecast? I should be able to better answer what the forecast is, taking the knowledge into account.
Yeah, I'd like to unpack this important point you're making, Chakri, which is the difference between data and knowledge. And I think it's understood at a high level, but its depth is really not appreciated as much. And it's what's the big difference, right? As Chakri was saying, it's answering the why question. Why was my forecast not right? Why was I wrong on production numbers? And it's the why of everything, right? I have a supplier shortage. Why did I not know early enough? So again, what I'd like to do is go back to with what I think are the key management questions, right? The key management questions is what is happening? Very quickly, I want to know what's happening. Soon after that, I want to know why is it happening, which is the insight. That's what's very important. And data cannot provide you insight. It's knowledge. Knowledge organized in a fashion where you can answer that precisely and have the aha experience. So the question that Chakri was raising, which was the forecast was 100, I came in at 80. What really happened? Was it competitor actions? Was it that the consumer didn't like my product? Was it weather? It's something that we've been talking about a lot. We're delivering the answer to that question. And that is really important, is that from data, you should move to knowledge. Why knowledge is you get that insight very rapidly on this question, but many others. But then go further, which is now answer the question, what's going to happen? Which is the forecast, not just of demand, but of your production, of your suppliers, etc. And then you look at all that and say, am I happy with what's going to happen? Or should I do something different? Which comes to the planning. So the path from data to knowledge and insight, to forecast, to actual actions, and then having a closed loop of continuous improvement is what management wants.
Exactly. And I think, as Sanjeev put it, that answering the what's happening, why, what's likely to happen, what actions to take, require a new way of thinking about planning, technology, planning transformation, how to organize ourselves. And I think the exciting thing is the technologies have caught up now. So if you think of what happened and why, the ability for us to use new technologies of AI, machine learning, the excitement around open AI, all of these are new frontiers that are opening up to really understand the why much better, get the human knowledge, the tribal knowledge that exists into the knowledge of the enterprise, make it systemic knowledge versus tribal knowledge. And then the prediction models become more accurate. And then scenario planning is a key capability to then what actions to take. This is the forecast. This is what's likely to happen. I don't like it, right? What do I want the demand to be? What if I want the demand to be 10% higher? What if the supply is going to be 5% lower? Then scenario planning is extremely important, that connects not just silo KPIs, but an integrated set of KPIs. What's the impact on revenue, gross margin, cash? How do I understand that? Within the realm of possibilities, companies have been doing that very, very siloed in a very slow fashion. But we're excited now that the technologies are there, and the awareness at the board levels is going to just accelerate the transformation that companies are asking for.
Right. Also, talking about data, right? A lot of conversation is what's the data in the corporate warehouses, in the many different data lakes, and organized data in ERP systems, etc. What we're finding interesting is that's very important data, but a lot of important information is in email. Chakri and I have had the vision for years to be able to have our customers give us access to their email such that we can use AI technologies to read it, interpret it, because many times a salesperson having a conversation with a customer will give an intelligent app the sense that demand is actually changing, right? Or the demand is going to go up, or various competitor actions, for example, right? And now I think that door is opening with ChatGPT, etc., where CEOs have been on it and say, wow, this is interesting. So we think that's a real opportunity. So new data sources that were always important, always identified by us, are now coming within our reach to be able to then answer the management questions, right? Of why, what should we do about it, what's going to happen, etc.
Yeah, I think building on what Sanjeev said, one of the biggest challenges in getting the insight in a company is that how to tap into the tribal knowledge, right? The tribal knowledge, what happened and why, someone in the organization knows, but that information is not flowing. Right. And the excitement of the technologies is the ease of use of how to conversationally or otherwise bring that tribal knowledge into what I call unstructured tribal knowledge into structured knowledge that then you can reason on scenario numbers, forecast numbers. That is the magic. And I think there'll be tremendous progress in that. They'll unlock huge value in enterprises when companies go from data to knowledge to decision making.
Right. And talking about tribal knowledge, one of the biggest sources is the spreadsheets people use. That we've been very good at. And I think that we've kind of mastered being able to take in the spreadsheets. But again, with the new AI technologies, I think we're going to cut the time it requires for us to digest a spreadsheet, where we'll be able to understand the conversation or the reason people are using that spreadsheet. What are they doing with that? Right now, we still apply talent to be able to do that. I think it's an exciting time where we'll be able to apply new technologies to be able to just suck that in and take it into our knowledge databases or knowledge models and do interesting things with it.
Awesome. So maybe to build on this excitement of the new technologies that are popping up and really are coming into the mind of the public. The buzz around OpenAI and ChatGPT in particular is raising a lot of questions in the public's mind. And one of the areas that people are starting to ask questions about is what impact this could have in different industries. And one of the extensions of this could be the impact on enterprise planning and decision making. So as leaders in this field, can you open up your minds perhaps to the audience on what are the exciting opportunities that we see when it comes to these new technologies now becoming more publicly top of mind?
Yeah, so we've been on that journey since, always thinking about how to use technology. If I take 5 years to 10 years from now, just fast forward a little bit, I think there'll be dramatic transformation in planning and decision making. A lot of, especially if I look at planning and decision making today, you think of it as short-term decision making. I call it the daily cycles where you're making short-term decisions to mid to long-term decisions where you're making more decisions about investments and understanding risks and opportunities and then making investment decisions. Each area is going to get transformed, especially the shorter term decision. We're already seeing a trend towards that, but you'll see a lot more automation in driving the short term decision making of an enterprise, right? Whether it's short term forecasting based on drivers of demand. I think machines will do a lot better job, especially in the short term, of understanding all the myriad of demand drivers that are changing, where you can understand that better in the short term and automating the forecasting process. Similarly, on the supply chain side, if you know the supply picture, you know the supply constraints, you know where the supply is, the ability to balance demand and supply and take automated actions based on broader guiding principles of financial goals, that will become much more automated. I think the trend is moving there. What that means is then the planning and management community has to focus a lot more on the scenarios for the mid to long term. The short term gets automated. And even in the mid to long term, I see scenario planning getting a whole new level of sophistication on using financial trade-offs, using risks and opportunity analysis, leading indicators of demand to understand. While we have been talking about that for some time, I think that's where intelligence is going to grow, and that's where knowledge models are going to be becoming extremely important, in my opinion, because you need to understand, how reliable is the forecast from this market or this segment? What is the knowledge around how reliable that's been? How reliable is the capacity of this supplier based on the knowledge of history? So you take all those risks into account in making those decisions, and it's going to be exciting times. What it means is the nature of planning and management itself is going to go dramatically change in the next 5 to 10 years, in our opinion.
Right. And to build on that, at O9, we are looking at different kind of AI technologies, right? ChatGPT is the large language model. It has a contribution, but for enterprise, particularly planning and decision making, it has limitations. It can contribute. And the big issue is that our customers, or enterprise customers, want accuracy. Accuracy is not guaranteed from that kind of large language model and learning model, right? Does it have applications? Many that Chakri pointed out: sentiment analysis, getting reading email and getting a sense of what's really happening. So there's a whole bunch of applications we're looking at for that. But then there's the goal-driven applications, right? Which is the enterprise opportunity. Then technologies that are better at chess playing, for example, come in, right? Which are search technologies. And all those depend on a rich knowledge model. O9's number one goal, and I believe it should be the enterprise's key goal when it comes to measuring their digital intelligence, is how well the digital twin mimics or exceeds the combined intelligence of their people. How would you measure it? It's in the 4 Ws we talk about. Is the speed and accuracy with which you're understanding what's happening, why it's happening, and what you're going to do about it. The forecast and the plan associated with that. So for us, it's building a knowledge model that's superior to the combined knowledge of all the experts in the company. That's what we think the core is. Then a whole bunch of very exciting AI technologies that are becoming available are what we will use. And we have some core AI technologies of our own, particularly in the area of building the enterprise knowledge model, particularly in the area of search that's important to come up with a plan. For example, you're allocating a product to 5 areas, and you're making a variety of decisions on how to do that allocation intelligently. There we had proprietary AI technology of our own. But right now, everything is open for redesign for us, where we are looking at it. We've been doing it 10 years. A lot of exciting technologies are becoming available, and we're saying, where can we do the 10x here, where we can take our solutions 10x to where they are today. And I think there are many, many things our teams are beginning to look at, and our enterprise customers are showing deep interest in.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to build on, we did some recent analysis, and if you looked at today, the measure of knowledge, the knowledge dissipation in an organization, it's about 90% of knowledge just gets dissipated because no one remembers institutional knowledge, people move on from a job. So the measure, whereas the measure of knowledge needs to accumulate and build on itself, and that's when 10 becomes 1,000 and 1,000 becomes a million. That's the power of AI. And today it's actually the other way. It's actually getting dissipated. So we see exciting possibilities in how the tribal knowledge becomes first systemic knowledge, and then the systemic knowledge just starts continuously building on itself, where the collective knowledge, as Sanjeev put it, will be million times more powerful than the tribal knowledge that exists in an enterprise. And that's the possibilities that exist today.
So with all of these possibilities, I think we also started our conversation that there is actually a lot of frustration towards actually getting to this point. So there's a lot of new technology, but the rate of change seems to be lagging behind. What could be your approach and recommendations for the chief executives that are getting frustrated when they want to have a higher rate of change and approach these digital transformation programs?
Yeah, if I might take that, I think the fundamental thing is a mind shift change, in my opinion. Traditional model companies are always approach, I call them traditional operating model companies. It's the traditional brick and mortar companies. Everyone is talking about digital transformation. Their mindset has always been one of multi-year transformations, etc. I'm a software company CEO. Sanjeev founded software companies. We don't think in terms of 5 years. Amazon does not think in terms of 5 years. We think in terms of agile, prototype, learn, deploy. We have a product mindset. And I think traditional companies need to apply a technology product mindset to their processes, which means agility in developing technology to fit the process, and agility in learning and prototyping, and not thinking of 5-year transformation projects. So the product mindset is the biggest change that we think traditional companies need to inculcate in their organization to become really a digital operating model company. Every company is essentially a technology company. Technology is driving the processes. Technology is driving product innovation. So that mindset change is the number one driver, I believe, and then everything will fall in place.
Couldn't agree more. What frustrates me is that till today, some large companies take almost 2 years to evaluate and choose a vendor. It is ridiculous when in 6 months you should be up and running and being in a cycle, like Chakri was saying, of continuous improvement. Just implement, you'll learn more by doing all kinds of RFPs, all kinds of evaluations, demonstrations, etc. I think that is just so very old school. And that's just one example of very old school practices with modern technology. And I think a whole new approach to continuous improvement is possible with today's tools. I think we seriously encourage people to do that. I think Chakri's been inviting people to come into O9 and see how we do things, right? Or comparing with how some of the faster companies are doing things. They used to say that the big fish will eat the small fish. And then I think the paradigm changed where the fast fish will eat the slow fish. I think that paradigm is now increased to 10x. It's all about speed. It doesn't mean do dumb things. You can do very intelligent things fast, and you can learn.
And I think to the point of learning, I think the big vision needs to be there. That's where a product management a product has a vision. What's my next generation planning process? What's my next generation customer engagement process? What's my next generation supplier engagement process? You have a vision for that, but then how do we call it building blocks. How do I get there fast through, understanding where the value leakage is? What's the first feature I'm going to develop? Second feature I'm going to develop? Third feature I'm going to develop? And building that out fast so that business is getting value. That's what traditional software companies have been doing. And, that's the mindset. If they change to, I think there'll be a tremendous value unlock.
Yeah, I want to build on that. It's amazing that I've been in this business many, many years. And still, one of the number one kind of resistances to moving fast is I don't have the data. It's schizophrenic almost. I have too much data, I don't know what to do with it, and I don't have data. So make up your mind. But really, our view is you're currently making decisions. You're currently making them on the data you have. Yes, we can come in, we can use the data you have, we can improve the decision making, but we can help fix the data, and the data is fixed not by having a 2-year data improvement project. Most of those are disasters, and most people know it, right? Our recommendation has been, and we've proven it, where you put a planning system on it and then do the kind of thinking or process that Chakri was recommending. What was your plan? What was wrong with it? Was it that your planning was wrong? Was your data wrong? Where was your data wrong? Let's correct it rapidly in huge cycles of improvement. So people who are saying, I don't have the data, are so old school. I think they need to really rethink that assumption. And I still feel I need to move to my next SAP system to S/4HANA before I focus on planning. No, you were doing planning before. We can connect to your existing systems, and the connection to your internal systems is only part of the problem. The most interesting data is market data. Most interesting data is supplier data, which is not even in your data systems, right? So take a different approach to the whole problem and take an approach of continuous learning.
Exactly.
Super. So are there any closing thoughts that you might want to add to the conversation before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think we are on the cusp of a revolution. I think my prediction is, for a long time, ERP has been where majority of the money of a enterprise technology stack has been going. Planning and decision making is the number one value generating category, in our opinion, of where the value leakage is happening today and where the value opportunity is. And with the emergence of the new technologies, bringing the AI technologies, and the existing big data technologies, and all the algorithmic technologies that have been around, bringing it all together, what we're calling the brain of the enterprise, the planning system, that has to become the number one value creating and technology enabler in the enterprise. That's what we think will happen over the next 10 years. The companies that get on that bandwagon and differentiate themselves in planning and decision making will be the most valuable companies of the future.
Yes. I'd like to add some other points, right, which we've discussed and you would agree with, which is we are living in, it's a mindset issue, right? We talked a lot about technology, but I'd like to also shift and talk a little bit about mindset. We're living in a very divided world. In US, there's a lot of division. Through the world, there's hyper competition and hyper animosity and division. I feel we need to shift to a hyper collaborative mindset, right? Let's bring that back to integrated business planning. What we find is in companies, there's a shift, but there's still hyper competitiveness between business units, between business functions, between the silos. I think technology allows us to move beyond that, but the mindset change needs to come from the executives, directing the internal operations to hyper collaborate. And integrated business planning is the process to bring that hyper collaboration. Now, I talked about hyper collaboration in the enterprise, right? then hyper collaboration with the suppliers and the customers. I was recently talking to a CEO of roughly a $25 billion company, and she said that while technology is improving, we are still gaming each other. Our customers are gaming us, we are gaming our suppliers. There's really not the kind of collaboration we need to be able to really get to the next level of operations and efficiency. So it's all about hyper collaboration. The technology allows that. The technology allows measurement and continuous improvement, where if there's a mindset agreement between a customer, a supplier, and one is gaming each other, the technology we have will point out that, look, you're gaming and not keeping your part of the agreement. So it's mindset changes. So one is mindset changes with hyper collaboration. The other area that constantly comes up is, hey, you have great technology, but I have a change management issue, right? I have people who think old style who need to think new style. And I believe that people are unnecessarily scared of change management. It's an important topic. It needs right attention. But change management is not something, it's like data we talked about. You don't sit in a conference room and think about how you're going to do change management. You put in the processes that you want, you drive with the processes and the KPIs that are important, and then you feel who's not changing to support that. What help does that person or that silo or that organization need to be able to carry out the change that the executives feel is important? Right? So now there's digital technology to be able to carry that out. We are now saying that besides the digital technology, you need a process technology, a process. And earlier people used to think about the process differently than the digital technology. One of the things we're bringing is, no, that's a mistake. You can't design a process first. You can't clean up your data first and then go to the new method of operation. We're saying do that all continuously and together. So everything comes together. New process design, change management, data with new technology that implements the decision support. And there's continuous improvement to the process, continuous improvement to the data, continuous improvement to the resistance to change. I think that's the way of the future.
Well said, Sanjeev.
All right. With that, I would like to thank you, Chakri, Sanjeev, for sharing your thoughts with us today. And for everyone else, enjoy AIM 10X.